Do you sing people a song to start it off?
No, I should though. Generate a theme song right on the spot.
Yeah, what are you doing, dude? Play the goat song or something.
Yeah, that would be a good intro.
Yeah, why not?
So we have made it, ladies and gents, to episode 13 of the SBG podcast, and today I welcome Mr. Matt Tinnin, my buddy and boss at Techneaux. Welcome.
Thanks, nice to be here.
So, a little bit of backstory on me and Matt. We go way back to the was it the Cyberland days or the
I think that's where we
EGL
met.
days? Yeah,
It's been a long time.
Mostly I remember hanging out at EGL with you because I remember you and Eric would mess with me about because I'd come in and just start screaming dumb shit about like grandma and all this other shit. So then
We called you grandma.
yeah, so then
That was your nickname.
yeah, so then because y'all would say that about me, I would come in and be like, "Where's the grandma twins?"
Yeah. Were you still in high school?
I think by EGL I was like first year at college or something, but
Okay.
Cyberland I was definitely in high school.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And we hung out a lot at Cyberlane because we were on the same Counter-Strike team as Rusty.
Yeah.
So we got free hours over there, and we just game Counter-Strike for hours and, yeah, basically all night long. So we were there almost every weekend.
Amazing.
Yeah, those were the days.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
there are no more LAN centers in Lafayette. That was the end.
Yeah, I think Charles's place was like the last one that I was aware of, and that one had a good run. I did
Yeah.
enjoy that one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember all the late night, like the 24-hour or whatever, like the overnight LAN parties.
Uh-huh.
I remember doing that for Diablo 3, and we're all just hyped up, like we're gonna play all night. It's gonna be amazing. And then
error
you're like,
code.
yeah, you're like 3-4 hours in, and you're thinking this game is not that good. And I'm supposed to be here playing this shit all night, so you could just kind of feel the air coming out of the room. Like this is not as good as Diablo 2.
It's like
once
you beat the first boss of the connectivity bug, then you have to face like the hardest rare mobs that they existed back then.
It didn't really have any cool items at that point. The uniques were dog shit.
Oh
and
yeah,
it was bad. It was
bringing back those memories now.
That's one of my memories of EGL, just because of how excited we were. And then just how disappointed leaving at like 5 a.m. The only redeeming factor was Mesh's donuts. At the end of that, I was like, okay, we're getting donuts. This is making it a little bit better, but damn.
Yeah, the strategy went from like farming Mephisto and Diablo 2 to like breaking pots open so that you could afford rare items on the auction house.
Or
in
just
D3.
spend actual money, which as a college student was not happening. You're like, oh, I could spend $300 on the RMT auction house and buy a decent rare axe. Well, whose idea was that? Holy crap.
Amazing. So then from there, how did you get into the tech space? Where you went to UL?
Yeah, so I had been into computers probably since I was like 12 years old. My first PC gaming experience was actually the original Diablo. I didn't have a computer, but one of our friends across the street, his dad was a radiologist. His mom was, I think, just a GP or something. They had all kinds of money. So he had a really nice computer for his radiology, and we went to spend the night at his house one night. And I was like, oh, computer with games on it. So I remember I played Diablo all night.
Oh yeah.
And I beat Diablo right at like 6:37 in the morning, and his mom walks into their office and she was like, "Oh, you're up early." It's like, yeah, I'm up early. I wasn't playing all night long. So like we had grown up with Nintendo, but once PC gaming, really started to pick up in popularity, I got hooked on the multiplayer aspect of it. Was playing Delta Force and Quake 2 and those sorts of things. So it's always, I guess once I reached 13, 14, always around computers, that's what I was doing. So I basically, because of that, decided to go into computer engineering at UL. And senior year, Michael Johnson, one of the founders of Techneaux, was teaching an adjunct class there, which was basically like an applied controls course where you got to get some real world experience in controls engineering, since he was working at W Industries at the time. So we got to basically work with a mentor, do some HMI work, do some PLC work, and I was also doing graduate work in the semiconductor fabrication lab at the same time. So we were doing like a gas sensor project, or we were fabricating a gas sensor. We were doing some fiber optics analysis on some dielectric waveguide splitters, and then we were also doing some acoustic analysis on sand in pipeline, so it's supposed to be applicable to oil and gas. So we kind of had 3 different projects going on. Anyway, I'm rambling. Point being, I had the option to go to graduate school, or Michael Johnson offered me a job out of school as well. And at that point, I was on that 5-year engineering plan and kind of had my fill. So it's like, well, let me jump in and actually start using some of what I've learned. And if I wanted to go back and get my master's, I could still do that. And so, yeah, that's really kind of where it started. Nice. Love of computers, decided to jump into computer engineering, and got lucky enough to meet Michael Johnson, and he offered me a job. I think it was me and Keith and maybe Mike, my best friend in the school, Michael Hargroder.
Yeah.
So yeah, he offered 3 of us jobs, and we all accepted, I think.
Nice. I didn't realize he had taught at UL. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was only, I don't know, it's probably only a couple of years that he was doing that, but it was great. It was, like I said, one of maybe the only course where you actually got some hands-on industry experience, where we were doing the same thing that we would do once we graduated. And it's like, oh, I kind of like this. This is good enough, and I can get a job here where, I could have potentially applied at, I don't know, some other semiconductor fabrication place, Intel, but you have to move, I don't know, wherever they have plants and stuff like that. This was an opportunity that I could stay local. So
nice.
What it was.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the hands-on classes at UL. I still remember my controls class with Dr. Macia, and the lathe class that I took, the machining. That was some pretty cool stuff. I was very aware of the horrible injuries that could occur with lathes, though.
Dude, I'll never forget the first lab that we had where it was maybe it was just the first lab, maybe circuits 1, I don't remember. Dr. Kumar, who was really kind of a hard ass, I guess, in the electrical engineering department. We're sitting there, and the first words out of his mouth, he just starts talking about how dangerous electricity is, right? And it scared me. It was like, this is not something to be messed with. Just a small current passing in the right spot across your heart can kill you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's, really kind of raising awareness of the danger of those things. And fortunately, throughout my electrical engineering career / life, I've only really shocked myself badly. One time, really stupid, plugging in my laptop, I'd grabbed the prongs and just popped, and my hand was numb for about 4 hours.
Dang. Yeah, I've touched the prong on accident one time before. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have showed some live leak footage of sweatshops with lathe injuries for my class.
I've seen a lot of those videos. I think I watched one earlier, actually, but it wasn't a lathe. It was like I don't know, it was like some lady with some sugarcane pressing machine, and her
arm went in there.
Yeah, her sleeve got caught in there.
Oh,
she didn't die or anything, but it like judo flipped her a couple times, and somebody ran and unplugged it. Yeah. We didn't really work at, with that sort of equipment like the mechanical engineering guys did. Most of ours, like I said, was just high current type stuff that is dangerous in its own way.
Yeah, I remember whenever I was doing the control stuff, that's actually what I thought that I would be doing whenever I first applied at Techneaux, because I had applied under Shannon. Like, I went in there asking about the controls group, and then I was asking him about.
Were
what
you
they
in
were doing.
iTech?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now I remember.
And so it's very interesting that I ended up in the position that I'm at right now. But I definitely don't mind it because I don't, traveling with a family is,
So did you get into
difficult.
Techneaux because of Shannon?
No, that's where I first applied, and
Yeah,
then
that's what I
it
thought.
didn't
Like
work
you
out.
came to apply to ES, and it was like, oh, I know Jacob, and
Well, I applied to Shannon's group first,
okay,
and then
okay.
whenever he wasn't hiring, I was like, "Well, y'all got any other places?"
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the ES came up, yeah, and that's whenever I brought the spreadsheets to Ben that I had made and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm assuming you know this is your home now. You're not going anywhere.
Yep, I've been enjoying it, and I intend to enjoy it for many more years to come. So,
Me too. That makes at least two of us. Hopefully more.
so then you started at Techneaux, and you started climbing up the ranks. And how did that go?
Well, I had so basically it was Ben in charge at the previous company W, and then John Miller, and then myself. So kind of went that way. So when Ben and Michael left to start Techneaux, basically it was then John and there was me. So I had already established myself as a leader within the business prior to Techneaux being formed, and so I was basically VP of the SCADA group there. And yeah, I was just always really close with Ben. Ben was the first person. Well, he was the person that interviewed me. He was the person that I worked for, and we were just close. From kind of the onset. I remember the first project that we did. It was probably 3 months into when I started. We were sitting, just he and I, working in the lab together, and I don't remember if it was him or me. One of us put on Tenacious D, and we both just started singing the whole album together and just laughing. And it was like, yeah, it was just kind of that moment. It was like, okay, like we're on the same wavelength here. And so, when he and Michael left to start Techneaux, there wasn't much debate in my mind of, like I want to work with Ben. He's my guy,
Mm-hmm.
So when Techneaux started, it was probably kind of 3 months, I want to say, afterwards. And I was like, you know what, I'm done. They couldn't offer me enough money. They tried to get me to stay. And I was like, no, I'm going to Techneaux, mostly because of Ben. And obviously Michael as well, who I have a ton of respect for. So, yeah, I came to Techneaux, and I kind of pressed the reset button, told Ben, hey, look, I just want to do technical work for a while. I need to kind of reset. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and other stuff, which, yeah, we can get into all that later. But point being, I reset, did project work for, I don't know, probably about a year and a half. And then Gary Silverman called with WPX because we had worked together. And he was like, man, I want you to work with me. It was just very good timing because we really needed the work at that point. And so I built a small team. It was probably 3 or 4 of us, and we started doing work full-time for WPX. Did that for a while. I don't even know how long, a couple years at least. And they were based out of Denver, so I had traveled to Denver for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times. I liked it a lot, and I was like, hey, Ben, I want to go to Denver and try and build a business out there. And he obviously had mixed feelings. He didn't want me to go, but he also knew that it was something I needed probably.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's funny. I sat down with Eric, my twin brother, for everybody. And I was just like, hey, dude, you want to move to Denver? And he'd never been. And he's just like, fuck yeah, let's go to Denver. So we packed up, we got in the truck, and we just drove over. It was kind of that simple.
Damn, that's
right?
crazy.
Yeah, just packed up and left.
That's awesome.
and got an apartment out there in the middle of downtown. I know, it was great. Learned a lot, learned how to, just be more self-sufficient and kind of get away from Lafayette and everything, and how to do everything on my own, including running a business, right? And so, yeah, it just kind of progressed naturally as I got more comfortable in a leadership role again. Yeah, and that's, I guess, the basis of the story.
I'll bet that drive to where y'all like got it in y'all minds that y'all were committed, like, all right, today's the day we're gonna drive and like go to our new hometown. I bet that feeling was just like so crazy, like this is actually happening.
Yeah, the weird thing is, like, since Eric, like, I don't know if it's weird, but the thing was, I wasn't nervous or really anxious about it because, like, me and Eric, it's like we're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
And I felt good about the support that we had from Techneaux, right? Like, they were going to give us what we needed. We had good support from our customers as well. Gary and Michael, those are people. I mean, they both still work at Techneaux, right? Yeah. And I think they're both really happy with it. So, like, we had support in those people, both remotely and there. So I don't know, it just felt exciting, right? It was like an adventure.
I'm sure, yeah.
And like I said, it made me secure in who I am, more secure, and it also gave me the confidence that, like, I could live anywhere and kind of go and do these things, right? And adjust to being in a new place. And it was good. One of our big hobbies has always been paintball, so like second week out there, we go to the local paintball field dressed in jeans and a t-shirt and a very unassuming sort of get-up and just start dominating. They immediately made a whole bunch of friends who we still consider friends to this day. Forrest, one of the other guys at Techneaux, we met him through paintball. He still plays with all those guys that we met in Colorado as well. So it just worked out great.
I can imagine that, like, playing paintball up in Colorado on like a cool, not humid day is like so much better. Than
yeah, I mean,
in a swamp down here.
The worst. I think the worst time I've ever had in terms of weather was like June in Houston, and it was well over 100. It was probably like 105 or something like that.
God.
And I just remember. Basically, it's like we play scenario games where it's hundreds of people on each team. You play at night with like night vision and tanks and all this stuff. And our team captain was the general, like the leader of one of the two sides in the game. And I was just like, it is too hot. I'm hanging out at the base in the shade. And if you have some like important mission that you are desperate to get done, then you let me know and I'll go do that. But it is way, way, way too hot to be messing around. And I definitely had heat stroke at like the end of the games. They have a final battle where it's like everybody on a football sized area. I definitely had heat stroke. I was close to close to passing out, but I was in the objective and was like, I can't lose.
God.
So I'm just like drinking water, sitting next to Eric, like, take my paintballs while I drink this water. Yeah, dude, paintball is rough.
Yeah, because
you have that mask, and,
like the whole thing demands that you have all this like protection and clothes and shit.
Yeah. Well, we've gotten compliments before. It may have been that game or a similar one. I was like, I'm done with wearing long pants. So I had just taken some scissors and cut my pants into shorts and done the same thing with my jersey, which looked completely ghetto. At the same time, that's cool in paintball, right? Not giving a fuck in paintball is in fact cool. So Eric and I both did this, and I remember one of the tournament guys that was like unloading the paint from the truck was like, you guys play paintball. I was like, dude, it is hot. Yes, I destroyed $200 worth of clothes because I was so hot that I could not be bothered to wear long sleeve shirts and actual pants.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I think one of my fondest memories of paintball was whenever we went, and I've only played it a handful of times. I enjoy it, but it's like, for me, it's like getting, contacts, right? I got to put my contacts on, do all this stuff, go out there, and I mean, it's not a hassle, but it's just one of those things I rarely get out and do, especially with the fam and all. But on a couple of occasions that I've played, the most enjoyable thing is whenever you go with your small group and then you end up merging together with other groups there, and there's that camaraderie of like,
Oh, that's the best part about paintball. It's simulated battle.
Yeah, I like that. And then so this one time we got out there, And at the end of like your session or whatever, where they're like, all right, everybody's pretty much, this group's about to leave, this guy's about, so why don't we get all of the groups together and do like a big, battle like you were talking about. So then at this one, they had, I think it was like 20 people or 30 people on each team. And the objective was they started each team off at the corners of this map, and this team A was trying to defend this like point where team B needed to go and grab a suitcase and then run it back and get it to that. And so then I remember, we were trying to defend all this stuff, and they were like sneaky. They went around and grabbed the case, and then once we found out that they were, going to where the objective completion area was,
the turn-in, basically.
Yeah, they had a group of people surrounding the guy with the briefcase, and they
as
were
a
all
shield?
running as a meat shield, and they ran in front of the ref and everything, and our whole team was just lighting up this school of fish, basically, of people, and even the ref got lit up, and it was great, and they ended up successfully getting the thing, but I just remember that it was like a whole group.
Countless paintball stories. Some of my fondest memories for that reason, right? There's something about that simulated combat, being with your buddies and doing that, especially in those big games where you're playing overnight in this kind of protracted battle. There's not many other things like it. It's both physical and cerebral. I love paintball. It's played since we were 12, I think. Yeah, a long time. We have one of the larger collections of paintball markers, I would say, in the U.S. as far as like specific gun type. They're called autocockers, which is basically like remove the pump. Paintball started as pump, remove that and have a pneumatically actuated kit on the front of it. We have a lot of very expensive ones of those.
Oh yeah, I remember looking in the magazines for that whenever I first got into it and seeing how the price ceiling of the good ones. I was like, my God, they got.
Well, yeah, and that specific type of gun it's like classic car, basically. So the value of those guns, especially the ones that we have, tend to appreciate over time.
It's just like an investment.
Yeah, we have some that were, from like early to mid 90s and stuff like that, where they still perform well. People really like them. It's rare to be like owning a classic Mustang or Camaro. Right. So yeah, we have a bunch of those.
And their value is only rivaled by the Magic collection that you also have.
We do have an extensive Magic the Gathering collection. Mostly now, it's focused on Commander, but do also enjoy Magic. It combines a couple things that I really enjoy. One being just the memorization, especially in a draft format where you're really trying to pay attention to what everyone else is drafting while building your deck. And then just the game itself, right? There's so many different decision trees that you could potentially make in order to win. Definitely love Magic.
And y'all had done tournaments with that, or
not anything big. Just playing like Friday Night Magic stuff, doing some sealed stuff at like the big tournament in Denver. Most of what we do with Magic is just kind of kitchen table Commander stuff with our friends. We have all of the pre-made Commander decks that Wizards has put out already sleeved up, and so nice. Basically when people come over, it's like, hey, what do you feel like playing? You want to play goblins, you want to play cascade things, you want to play dragon craziness, whatever it is. We have all of it. And since they're pre-cons, I don't want to say that the balance is great, but it's good enough that you can, it's not as severe as if somebody has like this super, competitive Commander deck that's going to win on turn one, right? They're just trying really hard competitively in what's supposed to be kind of a casual format. So it's cool, like friends come over and then we're like, put all the decks. And it takes a while. Put all the decks out. It's like, what do y'all want to play? It's overwhelming. It's probably over 100. You know, yeah, maybe it is over 100 now.
Whenever I was picking, I was like, all right, this color theme looks tight. I'll go with that one.
Yeah, and usually we'll try and get people to kind of say what they're thinking about wanting to play, and then we know what the decks are, so he's like, oh, you want to try this artifact thing, you want to try this vampire deck, whatever it is.
Vampire, land destruction.
Yeah, and steering the
So
newer
good.
people towards stuff that's stronger power wise than some of the older stuff is just kind of strictly not even remotely as powerful as the newer sets that they've been putting out. So kind of steering the newer people towards the newer decks as well.
Yeah, I remember going over, and I appreciated that y'all had all of the pre-built decks because, man, like I like the idea of trying to build a deck, and I tried to do it on a budget a while back. So I had gotten like a shoebox full of cards on eBay, which most likely was some a collector putting all the shit cards
crap,
in there.
Yeah, not good stuff.
And so then I got it, and I was like, man, I got so many cards in here. I'm bound to be able to make a decent deck. So
I don't think so.
so then I made these decks, right? And I had my buddies over at my apartment a while back, and that also didn't play it very often. So we were just like checking out. I had made these decks. I was like, all right, which one you want to play? And they were so like impotent that you end up just like drawing more cards and like just putting each other in places where you couldn't really attack or do much damage, but you weren't really doing much damage to each other. It's like, all right,
it
what
was
are we doing
the
here?
most boring Magic stalemate of all time.
I was like, man,
I get it. There's actually a good website. I think it's called like EDH, which is one of the names for commanders, Elder Dragon Highlander. But I think it's called EDH Rec, and basically, like, you can pick a commander, and then it's going to show you all of the synergistic cards, and you can even take that and like import it into the TCG Player website or whatever to buy the cards, and you can even kind of look at the ones that fit into your budget as well. It's a really, really good website for figuring out commander decks.
that's tight.
Yeah,
the synergy of that game is what drew me to that, because I really like games that they have a lot of cool mechanics that you can see them working with each other. I also remember whenever that one time whenever we went over for that week, I think I went up there. What was it?
20, that was fun.
17 or 2018 or something like that. Yeah,
I don't remember, man. You haven't been out in a while.
I know.
That's what happens when you have children.
it's true. But my wife definitely wants to make a trip somewhere soon, so maybe we'll pass through Denver
Hell
one
yeah,
of these
dude.
days. But I remember, and we actually have this game because I played it at y'all's place. Crawl, obviously.
Oh, look,
on the
that was one of
Switch.
the most fun video gaming experiences I've ever had, and I've played a lot of video games.
My son is probably playing it in the next room on the Switch right now.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah,
Wow,
that's like
wow.
one of his favorite games because of that interaction.
I will
But
never forget when you were trying to kill Eric for 20 minutes, and he was just running
that
around.
shitty little worm that
Oh
like
my
shot the
God,
spikes
dude.
out, and he couldn't catch
I
up.
couldn't even breathe. I was laughing so hard. Holy, yeah, that was hilarious.
So there was that one, but on the tabletop side, Splendor. That
Yeah,
game.
the deck. Well, say
engine
deck,
builder,
board builder. Yeah, engine building gem game. It's great in its simplicity and complexity in terms of the objectives that you're trying to score against. And yeah, I love that game. It's one of the games we usually introduce new board game folks to.
And it worked perfectly with my kids because that's one of their favorite games too. Because
Oh,
it's like,
nice.
it's got the chips that actually feel good.
Oh
It's
yeah,
not-
they're like actual poker chips.
It's like nice artwork on it. But yeah,
I know there's an expansion.
oh
I don't know
really?
if you have the expansion. I don't know if we have the expansion.
I didn't even realize they had one. I'll
Yeah, you
post
should
what it
look it
looks
up.
like too, so that people can check it out. It's great for kids, like engine builder in its like purest form. Definitely, it got my wheels turning on trying to make a video game like that eventually. But
Yeah, we also recently we were playing Ascension, which was by was it the guy who made Magic, Richard Garfield or whatever?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So basically, it's a deck builder with a tableau in the front that includes stuff that you buy, but also monsters that you slay. The monsters that you slay are kind of your primary victory condition, but there's also things, obviously, that you can kind of build into your deck to score victory points. Point being, it has like, I don't even know, 20 different kind of sets of cards, and you can build the giant stack of tableau stuff into kind of whatever format you want, which is very Magic-esque in its customization, you know.
I really enjoyed that genre because I really liked Magic, but, you know, as a newbie or, you know, someone on a budget, it's hard to compete with the better decks out there. But a deck builder, it's like, you know, a closed space, you know, so that everybody has the same level playing field to start from.
I enjoy them as well. Actually, we played at Charles's house. We played Dominion the other day.
Oh, really?
And he uses the randomizer app on his phone, and it made the most toxic set of cards. It was all just like robbing everyone of their gold, so you couldn't buy any significant victory points. So we were all just buying, I don't remember if it's called like the estates or whatever, like the lowest value thing. And the final score, I shit you not, I think the highest score was like 13 points or something like that.
Almost like a soccer score.
It took 2.5 hours. It's like, Charles, somehow you have turned Dominion into the biggest grind fest of all time. Yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely a fan. One of the deck builders that I like that I think a lot of people haven't really played much was a game called Arctic Scavengers, and it blends the isolated deck builder. You know, a lot of like Dominion games, especially if you're not playing with the expansions, it tends to be solitaire almost, where you're just kind of doing your own thing. But Arctic Scavengers is like you either buy stuff to win or you fight to win. So they're, again, like cards where like whoever has the highest combat score is going to win a reward. And typically the combat rewards are stronger than the purchase rewards because you're not always guaranteed to get those, right? So that's another cool one that I think balances the PvP element of the deck builder pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, my another one in that genre that was pretty cool, especially like my son doesn't know how to play it, but he likes the dice, you know, that go with it, is Quarriors.
Oh yeah, you had brought that over and we had played it. Yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
I remember that one. Different colored dice representing like the different, I guess, skills or quarriers or whatever it is that do different things.
Yeah, so you got you know, your money is you're rolling, and then you have monsters that you're buying, and then whenever you roll, you're only allowed to pick a certain amount out of a bag that you have. So then you have like a pool of dice, and then you can buy monsters and add to that pool of dice, and it's cool because the randomization is the dice faces themselves. So then you could either, you know, on a certain monster die, you can either have like money on there, or you can have like, you know, different levels of the same monster, and then they're pitted against each other. So
there was one we played the other day. I think it was Dawson. Dawson said it was his favorite game. It's called like Quacks of Quedlinburg. I don't remember. It's got a very That sounds ridiculous, but it has a very ridiculous sort of name.
Was it the same creator as with the Qua in there?
It's similar, I think, to Quarriors in the sense of like you have the tableau where you can kind of like buy different things that impact how you play, and you have a little bag, and you put all of those in, and you draw, and you play, and the goal is like to get. You're making a potion, and the goal is to get as far as you can without blowing up. Because if you blow up, then basically, like, you don't score as many points or whatever the rules. I don't remember exactly, but that was pretty fun. And it's similar to Quarriors in the sense of like you're using that board state to build your own unique bag of goodies that you're gonna draw from. Some of which are like really synergistic. We were playing. I think that's the last board game I played. Played that when I was in Denver.
Had y'all ever tried any of the legendary games?
Oh yeah, we have like the Marvel base one. Yeah.
Really? Had you seen the Alien one or played that one?
No, as a huge Alien fan, I should definitely check that out. Have you seen the movie yet?
No, Romulus?
Yeah.
I want to badly. Have you?
Of course. I
Oh,
saw the day
man.
it came out.
How was it good? I heard it was like a really good hat tip to the original.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think the first half was great. I would say the second half was not as great. I would have preferred it if they had kind of kept it tighter, maybe an hour and a half, and just ended it in like a more traditional way. But the ending kind of just kept rolling on.
Yeah.
But look, would I go see it again? Yes. And I don't normally go see movies in the theater twice. So if you're a fan of Alien, absolutely you should go and see it. You shouldn't even be debating. You should get your ass in the theater, if only for the fact that we want them to make more of these.
Yeah, for sure.
So go and support it.
I'm gonna have to drop all my kids off at the Gammy's house and just
go
out there with the wife.
I like the only Alien movie that I really had any significant issue with was the Alien versus Predator. And I was kind of into it up until the point where the main protagonist befriended the Predator, and he like gave her an alien head for a shield and an alien tail for a spear. And the cringe was strong enough that I seriously was thinking about walking. I don't know about this. Oh, they had me up until that point.
Yeah, it's like, why are they friends? They should be killing each other.
Yeah, but Alien and The Thing are my two favorite films. So yeah, of course I would recommend it.
So going back to the legendary game of that, I played it one time, and our buddy, like this is whenever I was getting more into the board games at my old buddy Drew's house, and he had a buddy that collected, like y'all do, all these board games, and he was like, man, I think my buddy's coming over. So there was like all this whisper of like, oh yeah, he's coming over, he's bringing this good one up. So it was late at night, he brought it over, and I just remember like getting into it. You know, it was a fair amount of setup, but the way that they like constructed that game, it was each deck that you would go through, you'd go through them like in sequences. Like if you beat this one, that's whenever you proceed to the next one, all that. But they set it up in chronological order of the movies. So then you had Alien 1 was the first deck, Aliens was, you know, so all that stuff. And they had like each card.
Then you get to Alien Resurrection, and they have the weird ass human alien thing. Yeah, well, I was talking about at the end, the crazy ass hybrid
they got
thing.
Sucked through the pinhole. So good. People hate on that one, I think, but that one was really good.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but if you like weird shit, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. The image of that thing getting sucked out into space will be in my mind.
Oh,
forever.
yeah, I was like,
but so it's going through the chronological order and all that stuff in the decks, and each card is like a scene that you'll remember from the movie, and it's so good. Like they even have that scene where the dude is like holding the other guy's hand underneath, like the robot is
Bishop, when they're doing the five-finger
knife
fillet.
thing. Yeah, that's like one of them, and like, oh my god, it's just so. And then so it's made in such a way where there's like face down cards coming across the top, and then you have a certain amount of time to prep, and then eventually they start coming out like one after the other, and like one of them you might get.
What really kind of piqued my interest, I'm not sure if you knew they had this too, but I want to say that there is an Alien pen and paper role playing game.
Really?
Yeah, we had gone to one of the game stores in Denver, and I saw it, and that was interesting. It's like, oh, maybe that's something we could play.
That is interesting.
I'm assuming you know role play as like Colonial Marines or something like that. Another thing I would definitely recommend. They call them audio dramas, so it's an audio book more or less, but it has voice acting for the different characters as well as overlaid sound effects for like the pulse rifles and doors closing and the aliens doing alien things. And there's some cool ones. I think one of them was called like Sea of Sorrows or something like that. Really cool. Highly recommend if you're a fan of Alien to listen to some of those Alien audio dramas.
Man, for sure. Sometimes those get imprinted in your brain better than the movies because you can it's like reading a book. Like you form your own imagery.
Definitely.
A totally different thing.
Oh, definitely.
Start vividly hallucinating while you're driving, listening to this shit.
Yeah, it's great stuff to fall asleep and have nightmares about, face huggers impregnating you and those sorts of things.
I remember whenever I was like heavy into the audiobooks, I started listening to The Stand.
Well, that's a slog.
Yeah, and so I was like halfway through it, or I think it's 2 books or 3 books, and so I had gotten to the point where the narrator was actually like doing a bit where he was talking as if he were a radio host, talking about these like atrocities happening across the country and all this stuff. And when I got to that, it was during like a 6-hour drive to the beach with my family, and we were driving at night, and everybody in the vehicle was asleep, and I was listening to this shit, and I was like, at a certain point, you forget that you're like, it's a book that you're listening because it sounds so much like current events rattling off. So it was great there.
Yeah, I'm a big horror fan of just about any type. So
another fantastic book. I don't know if there's an audio book or if you have to read the thing, but Fragment. And I think I had suggested this one to Ben as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it.
So that one is like Jurassic Park on acid, pretty much.
Jurassic Park is a fantastic book.
I know, right? So
Mr. Crichton knows what he's doing, so that's a high bar.
I know, right? Man, look, it's great because, and I'll just go over the high level of it. So it's basically like it's set up like Jurassic Park, where these people are like, oh, we're gonna go and do this reality TV show, and they crash onto this unexplored island, and they're the ones that discover that this is like another continent that wasn't discovered yet. And the whole premise is that this is like an island that broke off from Pangea and evolved separate from the mainland.
Right. So completely different species.
Yep. And everything on that island is like copper based in their blood, and they live and die much quicker than everything else in normal areas. So then they like reproduce, eat, so everything is like a swirling torrent of things eating each other and reproducing. Even the plants like eat other animals and stuff.
Yeah, they're carnivorous plants. Yeah,
it's very good. Would recommend.
Would you say it's like a horror?
Nah, it's more like a creature. It's pretty much like Jurassic Park,
science fiction.
Yeah, they even have the trailers, from like the second Jurassic Park, where they brought the trailers in and they were like research. They have that part in there, so I really think they might
InGen or something like that was the company.
I think they like modeled the story after Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of interesting stuff that I've read relatively recently. I think the most interesting thing that I've read recently was House of Leaves, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Do tell.
So, it's a horror book. I don't want to talk too much about kind of giving away the plot, but basically it's a family that lives in a house with what starts to just be strange dimensional things, where it's like this closet shouldn't be this big, which eventually it grows to the point where they're exploring this like basically a giant new world within their house. But the cool part about the book is like it's written as though one person found the manuscript of another person that was retelling what happened with the family and his descent into madness. So some of the pages are written diagonally. Some of them might have like only a few words. There's a lot of footnotes and just random writings from the perspective of a madman, going over this work. It's a very unique book. And I left feeling like, wow, I'll never read anything like that again, which is a good feeling for me.
Oh man, that's sick. It reminds me of how I tried to make the story for Radio silent, because it was like a similar premise where you're like finding audio logs from somebody that went crazy from like being in wormhole space.
Yeah. And the transitions are pretty unexpected, in terms of, oh, we're telling the original story about the family in this house, and then when you least expect it, bam, okay, now we're transitioning into the other part of the story, which again is told from a guy who found the manuscript of another guy who was also driven mad by this story. Yeah, very interesting.
I really like that found, it's like, in that case, it's like found, logs basically. But I like that storytelling style. I'm gonna have to check that book out.
Yeah, I just found myself
sure.
kind of like digging in a similar way, right? I think that was the purpose of how the book is structured, is that you find a little bit of the madness in yourself, and you're digging deeper into these footnotes, which are rooted in historical facts. It's not, they're not building this completely fictional world. So those footnotes are referencing things in psychology, in Greek mythology, and all of these other things that do in fact exist. So they're really trying to kind of bridge that, realism gap in order to get you to dig in a similar way.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
For sure, gonna have to check that one out. And before we started up, we were talking about a little bit of music, and you have a wide range of bands that you know of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to hit you with this. My recently, my newborn son.
Are we talking about Hate Beak?
That's a good one right there.
Parrot metal? No. Okay.
This one is not necessarily obscure bands, but it's just a funny story. My son is my newborn is like approaching 2 months, right? And he's been fussy lately, formula and gas and all this other stuff. But what seems to calm him down is whenever I put on either Whitechapel or Black Dahlia Murder at a substantial volume, and he just ends up going to sleep. It just rocks him to sleep.
I just bought a Whitechapel shirt. I just got one in last week.
That's awesome. I think
I have 3 actually.
Damn. Yeah, I got into them a couple of years back, but yeah, it's just funny because I think it's it's almost like white noise at some point for them, because it's a lot of heavy blast beats and screaming. It's all just one wall of music. You know what I'm saying? It didn't I don't know.
You just reminded me of this time we were on some substance. I'm not going to say on this podcast what we were on exactly.
Caffeine.
Yeah, caffeine. We were on caffeine. Eric and I were really high on caffeine, and we were sitting around, and we had the satellite package where you had, thousands of channels, and we're just sitting at the house just on Saturday night just scrolling through stuff. And we stopped on, it's like a infant channel that plays really strange images, as well as what I'm assuming sound that mimics what they're hearing in the womb. And we were just listening to that for 20 minutes, just zoned out, what in the world? So yeah, there's a channel on satellite dedicated just to that. So
oh my God.
Yeah, if we're talking about weird music preferences, that's probably at the top of the list. But no, I love music. I was raised classic rock. Our dad was a huge classic rock fan, still is. He has an extensive album collection. Bands like Black Sabbath, which is basically, that's like the religion in the Tinnin family. Yeah, it's basically the religion in the Tinnin family household. A lot of the bands, Journey, Foreigner, Bad Company, stuff like that. Obviously Led Zeppelin, and we kind of transitioned from that into Pantera and Metallica and Megadeth. A lot of those bands. Eventually Tool, Alice in Chains, stuff like that. And then I think it was probably senior year high school, freshman year of college, finally heard music where I really felt like this was my thing, and that was In Flames, and that was Just a Race, that was Reroute to Remain, Clayman, those albums. Okay, this is something. And then just kind of went from there hard into a lot of different metal genres, post-rock instrumental, I listen to classical music as well. Yeah, so I listen to music. I mean, this is a guess, but it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 8 hours a day. It just depends. Do I have meetings and stuff? But listening to on the way to work out, working out. When I'm at home, I'm listening to it in the kitchen. I'm listening to music in between meetings. When I get home, even while I'm gaming, pretty much all the time.
It's interesting that you mentioned classical because metal is so similar to classical. I mean, it's
you'll hear a
rooted
lot
in
of
classical.
especially like I don't know, the more, I guess, pioneer style metal bands that got things started refer to Bach a lot in terms of musical structure and how it impacted their songwriting specifically.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the first guys that I interviewed on the podcast, Justin, he went to school at UL for music, and he was well versed in all the classical and piano and all this stuff, and that's how he wrote his music. And so whenever I was learning his music, whenever I was in his band, it was just like crazy. The composition,
right?
And everything was just so technical with that. And I was like, man, this is crazy to learn this.
Well, I think a lot of people, since they haven't been exposed to metal and they hear it, they think of, I don't know, loud sounds, dissonance, that sort of thing. But it couldn't be farther from the truth in terms of the skill of most of the musicians in the metal genre. And bands like In Flames, they are defined as melodic death metal. And one of the things that really attracted me to them was, their dual guitar. Not just simply like lead and rhythm, but in sync. Two guitars playing beautiful melodies, just beautiful stuff, and it's like, okay, this is different. This is what I need.
Oh yeah. Did you see them at the Cajun Dome?
No, I saw them at Ozfest. It was like 99 or 2000. That was awesome.
Dang.
It was like Trivium, Killswitch Engaged. Iron Maiden was supposed to be there, but I think that was like Sharon Osbourne pissed them off, and they were replaced with Velvet Revolver. I was not happy at all. I was like, I'm going to get to see Iron Maiden, get to see Ozzy. Oh, this is going to be awesome. Zakk Wylde was there. I think it was with Black Label Society. Yeah, it was so hot. People were just like passing out. It's like, I'm here till the end. I'm staying till I get a chance to see Ozzy. There's no going back. And I remember they came out and they were playing for maybe like 20 minutes, and it starts pouring down rain. And at first it's like, oh, this is nice. I've been sweating and dying all day. It was in Houston. And then we had a 4-hour car ride back to Lafayette, drenched.
Oh, wow.
That was rough. That was a challenge. But yeah, that show was awesome. No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember. I would have, if I was here, I would have gone and seen him.
Yeah.
I don't remember why, but yeah, I've seen him before.
I think it was like two years now it's been, and that was with Lamb of God, Megadeth, and In Flames. And I think Trivium was there too, but
yeah. I saw Trivium another time too in Denver. They were playing with Devil Driver, who was amazing, dude.
Damn.
That was great. That was fantastic. I wish I had gone though. I want to see. I haven't seen Lamb of God yet. I definitely want to see.
So that was my second time seeing them, and they stole the show. It's crazy.
Oh, they're fantastic.
It's like the pyrotechnics and everything.
Yeah. I can always tell, like, somebody who's a real metalhead, if they say, like, they don't like Lamb of God, I'm immediately skeptical.
What a poser.
Well, I don't even know, if it's like, I don't know if it's like a poser thing, but Lamb of God is they're kind of in that metal sweet spot, It's like, man, if you don't like Lamb of God, like, what do you like?
To me,
is it metal?
Yeah, to me, they're like almost like Black Sabbath is to rock. They're like that to like that genre of metal. The grandfathers of that.
obviously, Lamb of God comes on in the car when I'm riding with Eric all the time, and we don't skip it. It's like, all right, Lamb of God's on it. Here we go. You know,
Yeah.
some bands we skip occasionally, not them. No, absolutely not.
So whenever you saw Kill Switch, was that the Howard Jones era?
Yeah. I think,
Sick.
yeah. I think it was the End of Heartache. I want to say, I don't know. I don't remember exactly which album was out at the time. I remember they were like the last band on the backstage before moving to the main stage. So they played for like an hour. So we were already hot and kind of tired. I was like, Kill Switch is here. I'm toughing this out. And we were standing next to a couple of those older guys that were obviously there primarily to see Ozzy. And we're just like, you know, drinking, chilling. And they were just like, who the fuck are these guys? This is amazing. We're like, yeah, dude, this is Kill Switch. These guys are amazing. And Adam's just being Adam up there, just tearing it up. It's like, oh, this is, yeah, Kill Switch was definitely, I mean, performance-wise, they may have been the best band there. I don't know if at the time I was as huge of a fan of them as I am now, and that kind of solidified it for me. Like, no, these guys are they're legit.
Yeah, I definitely want to see them one day.
Oh yeah, I listen. I mean, I listen to a lot of Kill Switch even now. You know, I look at them as just one of those top metalcore bands with like As I Lay Dying, where it's like, yeah, these guys are undeniably awesome. There's not much else to say.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I love melodic death metal, metalcore, you know, and prog metal. Those are kind of the big three for me in the metal arena. And, you know, I'd say loosely my top three artists I listen to, Currents, which, you know, Eric calls them a progressive melodic or a progressive metalcore band because their sound is a bit different. I love them very, very, very much. Second, guy out of Las Vegas, Seven, which it's like metal mixed with some more ambient type stuff. It's a unique sound. I probably sent you some of his stuff before. And then last but certainly not least is Cloud Kicker, a guy named Ben Sharp, who's a commercial airline pilot, and he writes all of his music purely instrumental. Again, very classically influenced. His music styles kind of take a riff and just go with it and bend it to his will. And you know, if I'm trying to think, you know, listening to something that's going to help me focus on work or whatever, it's my go-to, Cloud Kicker, 100%.
Interesting. Yeah, I think was it the two bands. I can't remember the first one. It was something about like we built the sky. Is that one?
Oh, that's probably. I believe that is a post-rock instrumental kind of thing. If I had to, based on the name alone.
Yeah, them and Scale the Summit too.
Oh, Scale the Summit, we actually went see.
Really?
Yeah, that was cool.
Damn.
I may have also been on some substances for that. And they just had the cool light show. One of the guys had LED lights just all throughout his guitar.
Oh,
and it was really dark in there. No, Scale the Summit's great. Yeah, that's one of the perks of being in Denver. You get to see a lot of those bands. You know, I was super pissed off. I had a migraine, so I couldn't go. But Eric and Billy went, and they saw Devin Townsend and Animals as Leaders.
Oh.
I was so stoked. But I got to see Devin Townsend again at Red Rocks, so that made up for it. Gojira and Opeth as well. They were all.
Oh my god!
It was great.
At Red Rocks, see, that's in itself is fantastic.
Yeah, the
Bucket
venue
list.
is unique, especially at like on a clear night. I don't know if you've been, but you know, it's angled in a way where you see the stage, but you also just kind of see
The horizon.
and you see the sky line as well. It's awesome. The only real downside is the fact that it is a significant number of steps to get to the seating And there are a lot of people who don't realize that. And I would assume there have been actual deaths at Red Rocks from people who are just not prepared for the cardiovascular elements of getting to their spots.
Damn. That's crazy. It's like a hike to get to your concert.
Oh, it's a bunch of steps. Like there's limited parking near the top. So you kind of park way down at the bottom and you're climbing up steps, hundreds of steps to get there. And if you're coming in from out of town,
out of breath,
right, where you're not used to being, well, I don't even know, but I'm assuming it's probably 1,000 feet higher than Denver. So, 6,000 plus feet, and you're coming from out of town and trying to do that, good, and you're not in shape, good luck. We took Travis out there.
Oh, man.
He had just flown in, and he's like, I want to go check out Red Rocks. And we didn't even park at the bottom because it was, I don't know, it was like in the afternoon, so nobody was there. So we pull up, and he's just kind of walking up and down the stairs a little bit, and he's like, guys, we need to go. I'm not feeling good. It's like, all right, dude. Yeah, the altitude, especially, being a sea level 0 feet kind of boy down here in South Louisiana, it'll wreck you. Wreck you good.
That's crazy. So you've been listening to some metal while you work out. I know you've been working out lately more.
Yeah, working out is my thing. I have I don't know, it's probably like a lunatic routine that I've been doing for a long time. I do a 4-day split, no rest days. But I find, what I kind of tell people is like, punish yourself for an hour of the day and feel better for the remaining 23. That's how I look at it. It's like, and at this point I enjoy it, so it really isn't actually punishment. For most people as you're starting, it probably is. But no, I love working out. It's one of those places where I can really just kind of get in the zone and focus and get all that energy out and be in the right headspace for work. I love doing it in the morning as well, so I'm just kind of ready, for the rest of the day.
I do miss working out in the mornings. The only time that I was able to really commit to doing it was whenever I was at UL and I realized how good the gym was over there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then I purposefully scheduled an 8 a.m. with a break of about an hour in between for the next class so that I'd be able to go to the gym in between. And yeah, working out in the morning, it just makes you feel so much better for the rest of the day. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I don't know if it's, the endorphins or it's just a mindset thing where you're accomplished already. The rest of the day is going to go as it goes, for better or worse, but you've done your work for the day. So for me, going every day is really that mental element, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to feel accomplished. And if I don't go, I'm just beating myself up. Why the fuck didn't you go to the gym this morning? And it's so much worse than just going. Regardless of, if I'm really sick, whatever, COVID, the flu, obviously I'm gonna rest, but if I'm just feeling a little bit off, that is not as bad as the mental anguish I'm gonna put myself under for not going. So yeah, I'm there every day. I think most of the guys in the gym probably just think I'm the crazy guy who's there every day and lifting hard every day. And I've had several people come up to me and just say, dude, you're lifting a lot for your size. It's like, I know. I do. I did 220 on incline bench this morning. Just, all right, let's go up.
Impressive.
They could probably hear me. They could probably hear me at the front desk because it's right there, just going. It's just going hard. Which it's not really something that they like you doing at Planet Fitness. But I figure I'll upgrade to Reds here shortly, and I can grunt as much as I want.
They never rang the bell on you.
No. I think that again, I'm the regular guy that's there every day. They're not gonna give me any shit about anything, and I'm good about picking up too. Like other people leave a mess and I'll go pick stuff up. I'm courteous. I know
Yeah.
sometimes when you're lifting that close to capacity, grunting a little bit, I find actually does help.
Yeah, for
For
sure.
whatever reason. I don't know what that is. Some primal brain element. I'm not entirely sure. But I was thinking about in the not so distant future, kind of given Techneaux learning over lunch, where I talk about exercise and eating right, with all my health issues and stuff like that, just trying to teach people how to find a state of being that you feel healthier. I've spent a lot of effort on that, a significant amount. So
Definitely.
trying to use that to help other people, hopefully.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was about to ask about the diet thing. Do you ever do you plan out a meal with the intent of like, all right, I'm going to eat this because it's like the perfect fuel for the workout? And like when you do that, do you feel the difference?
I mean, it's every meal. So like, yeah, so I have certain foods that have obviously been giving me trouble most of my life, primarily like grains and seeds. And I'm not sure exactly which ones, so I've eliminated all of those. So yeah, basically, if I eat some of those foods, it's like a day or day and a half where I feel significantly worse, to the point where, especially cardiovascularly, it feels like it's difficult to breathe. But I've worked out so much to be blunt, I think there were several times where I may have been close to actually having a heart attack at the gym, to the point where like my heart rate shot up to 170, 180, and my ears were ringing, and like I just went in my car and laid down for a while. So like those, now that I've been doing it for so long, the days are better or worse, but not significantly enough where it's going to stop me from doing what I need to do in the gym. So most of my diets, I mean, it's super clean and regimented. It's lean meats, chicken and fish. It's primarily beans right now for a carbohydrate and fiber source. Vegetables, which are kind of whatever, broccoli and squash and tomatoes and carrots and green beans, just kind of whatever there. And then a little bit of like fruit juice, coconut water and stuff like that for electrolytes. So I mean, it's more or less what you would consider to be like a pretty clean bodybuilder type diet without the extreme carbohydrates, because I can't eat like rice and stuff like potatoes, even sweet potatoes. I don't know, my body seems to dislike like heavy carbohydrates for whatever reason. So
that's why this man's so lean.
Oh yeah, I am ripped.
Damn.
Yeah, and not a ton of fats. The fat sources that I get are primarily like coconut and olive oil, which are better from an omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, which coconut oil is all omega-9. It doesn't have either. But like olive oil and avocado oil are both on the better end of the omega spectrum. And most people don't realize I also tell people, think about what the human diet was 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. So we have all these hydrogenated oils, fried foods, like no. And for me, that was really kind of eye-opening. It's like, my body doesn't like those things. Maybe there's something to be said about the fact that my body wants to eat a diet akin to what we were eating, again, 1,000, 10,000 years ago, and just kind of trying that out and feeling better and better. And now it's funny, talk about some of that stuff, and it's like, Matt, you probably feel better than most people. It's like, yeah, I never really thought about that, because I've been so sick and almost dead that I was just like pursuing feeling better, to the point where I think I've surpassed a lot of other people, and they've just accepted some baseline of feeling like shit. When I refuse. It's like, I'm going to figure out how to feel as good as humanly possible, because I've been so sick for so long. It's kind of interesting to think about, like, oh, I've actually gone further than that, And once you've eaten those foods for long enough, you've cut out fried stuff, you've cut out pizza, cake, and all of these other things, between 6 to 12 months, your gut biome will change. I don't crave those things.
Yeah, my dad said
it
the
actually
same
kind of
thing.
disgusts me.
Yeah, the once you start cutting out the sugar, you realize how much sugar is put into everything. And
a soda like a
sweet.
Dr. Pepper or Coke just tastes insanely sweet to me. It's like, what am I drinking? Holy crap.
My dad was saying how it was like the hardest thing was the sugar to get off of that, and then once he got that out of his diet, he dropped like almost 100 pounds. I want to say.
Oh wow! Holy crap!
I should. I don't have any.
Was it soda as well?
Well, he drank a lot of beer and
carbohydrates are converted into sugar.
Yeah, and just in general, the sugar. But like, man, he slimmed down a lot. Like I remember
That's great.
him, growing up. I remember him being heavier, and so now every time I see him, I'm like, my God, he's like skinnier than me now.
Yeah. A big thing for me too was always, with all the depression and anxiety, learning how much your mental health is impacted by all of these things, both diet and exercise. Serotonin, which is the primary feel-good chemical, is produced in your digestive system, and I think 90 to 95% of it is used in your small intestines, and 5 to 10% is used in your brain, right? And getting sunlight and eating the right things is the only exercising. These are the only actual ways to increase your serotonin production. Everything else in terms of SSRIs, SNRIs, they don't increase your serotonin production. They just block receptors so that there's more free-floating serotonin in your brain, right? It's just like a lot of my approach to diet and exercise was because I knew that it was going to have a dramatic impact on my mental health. And it was really after trying all of those, I've been on every one of those medications, like, I need another way. I need a better answer for this. It's like, well, let's do this the natural way, right? Let's see if we can improve that production, get more sunlight, get more exercise, eat correctly. And sure enough, I feel great. That's something that easier said than done in terms of getting started, but most people, if they really start, dig into it and get to the other side, you won't want to go back.
That's great.
There's no going back.
That's great knowledge for everybody out there. Big Pharma is going to put a hit on us for disclosing this information.
Yeah, look, I'm not one of those people that's going to say, hey, don't.
Yeah, to each
take
their
those.
own. Right?
Well, no, I mean there were times where I feel like I needed it, and it's part of the reason why I'm still alive. But at the same time, it's not, in my opinion, the right long-term solution for people. And they don't really talk enough about the downside in terms of trying to wean off of those medications. The different medications, and they kind of progressively get stronger. And when you go to the psychiatrist and tell him that you are suicidal, they tend to just kind of skip some of those and go straight to the strong stuff. So he put me on, I think it was the maximum dose of Cymbalta, also known as duloxetine, and I was on that 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And it's like, I had a ton of problems. It's like, I need to get off of this. He never told me about the fact that there is something called Cymbalta withdrawal syndrome, which is so bad that there was a class action lawsuit against the pharmaceutical company, and it was an absolute nightmare. It's hard to even describe the symptoms, but basically you lose complete control of your brain. I couldn't feel my legs or my arms. The fear center of your brain, the thing that, you would say causes panic attacks and anxiety, would light up like a Christmas tree, and I'd go from sitting at the computer to curled up in a fetal position, crying uncontrollably for hours. Just, it's hard to describe, but if that happens, it's like this existential dread where you're thinking, I'm dying, and that is one of the worst feelings you could possibly experience.
That's so crazy.
It's not recommended by any stretch of the imagination. So to wean off of it, I had to break apart the pills, and over the course of half a year, count the individual beads of which there are hundreds, right? So I would go from like 200 to 199 beads to 198 beads every morning. Sit there and count every single bead.
Think about how crazy it is that they would prescribe a medicine that trying to get off of it would induce such a horrible, much more of that feeling that you're trying to take the medicine to get away
it's
from.
It's used to treat anxiety and depression. And it caused the worst panic attacks of my entire existence, of which I've had an innumerable number of panic attacks. It may have even been worse than the panic attacks I got from serotonin depletion syndrome, which in and of itself is a hellacious experience.
It's like some
and the doctor didn't say anything about any of it. Not one word, right?
That's like the most...
And that was his specialty. This was a psychiatrist. This was not a general practitioner. And this is a guy who'd been doing it for like... He's about to retire. He'd been doing it for 35 years.
It's like some of the most amazing irony I've ever heard. It's like, what can screw over the most vulnerable person to this type of thing?
Yeah. Well, and I had switched doctors, and he didn't even really warn me about it either. When I told him I was going to start weaning off, he just prescribed, like, he was like, oh, you're at, I don't remember what it was, let's say 120 milligrams. I'll prescribe you 90, or I'll prescribe you 60. And it's like, that's not enough. My brain has calibrated to this medicine in a way that it refuses to be without it. It needs to function. And again, like, I didn't know enough about everything to understand that it would have probably helped significantly if I'd increased my natural serotonin production. Because I think what happened was my serotonin production was still low. I stopped taking the medicine, those receptors open up, and there's no serotonin in my brain to speak of. And that's a very bad place to be. Not recommended.
Sounds bad.
Yeah, the serotonin isn't... Well, you can die from it. Serotonin depletion syndrome. Yeah, I had it twice, and I had to go to the hospital, like, very bad.
Jeez.
It was an interaction between another one of those medications, Paxil, and a migraine medication called Imitrex, which both are serotonin-based. Again, my doctor didn't know anything and just prescribed me both of those. And take them simultaneously, and you're having a bad day. A real bad day.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just like a fraction of the medical, I guess, experiences that I've been through. We could have a whole like
whole episode of that.
Yeah, 3-part podcast about that if you ever want to.
I'll have to get you back on the pharmaceutical side.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, a lot of the guys at Techneaux that kind of go through this stuff. It's like, do you basically have an honorary MD? It's like kind of, and not just from the experiences, but through the practice of trying to figure out what was wrong with me. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I've had randomly somebody a couple times where they were like, "Oh, he's sick and he's kind of got these things going on," and I was like, "Oh, it's probably this," and then sure enough, goes talk to the doctor a couple days later after some tests, like, Matt, that's what he has. It's like, yeah, I've like been tested for everything, you know, gone through all that.
You're like a house.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't pay much for my education financially. Just, you know, the hard knocks of life, I guess. Trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
That's great.
Well, feeling great now, dude. Feeling great. Even just within the past couple of weeks, all the dieting, all the vitamins, it's all just kind of locked in. Yeah. Better than I may have ever felt in the entirety of my life. So life is good.
Well, that's fantastic, man. I'm glad that you're feeling good. I can definitely tell. I mean, I could tell the difference whenever you finally started, you know, getting a handle on things. It's great to see.
Yeah, my smile's back. That's probably the simplest way to describe it. You know, it's hard to smile when
you feel like shit.
You're on the verge of death constantly. That's not an easy thing to do, but. You know, I've obviously read a lot of philosophy and just try and understand life. And Eric and I were talking, one of the psychology professors at Harvard kind of talks about, it's like, you know, most of the people in life that are happier or show a sense of gratitude are the people that have suffered, the people that have been through some stuff. So enough to know and to have perspective on the good things in life and really savor those. And I've been through enough to be able to savor the good stuff. And I can sit here with you and, look at Techneaux and what we've built and just be so proud, and happy. It's like, look at what we've got, like this is such a great place. There's a lot of people that care, and a lot to be thankful for, in terms of where my life is at the moment, in spite of the journey that it took to kind of get here,
Absolutely, man.
And I don't just say that for the podcast, folks. That's just
yeah.
This is
genuine.
This is genuine. I tell the other guys all the time, what I think the world is missing more than anything is gratitude. A feeling of gratitude towards the people in your life and the things that you're thankful for. So I try and every couple months just kind of write that stuff down. Just, remind myself of all the things that I'm grateful for and just live in that perspective as much as I can. And people like you who have, really helped to build a great place that I think the majority of people like working at, I hope so. We're trying very hard to make that happen. And that's why I was curious, like you've been kind of on this journey with Techneaux for a long time, longer than most, I guess. How do you feel about where it is now, kind of in comparison to when you first started?
So, whenever I first started, it was like drinking from a fire hose to try and absorb all the information, right? And it is crazy to see because from the garage days, obviously coming up to where I started, it was, I think 50, 60 people whenever I was there, but there was enough to where it still felt like a small family. Like everybody was you could kind of, I don't know, it was a little bit looser. And then as we started acquiring more people, it got to where, okay, we needed to be a little bit more tight-knit.
We actually have an HR department.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. But it's interesting to see where it was to where it is now, and like now we have all these different business units, so it's cool to see the evolution of it. And I mean, I'm in it for the long hauls. I'm just enjoying to see where it goes. I don't want it to be the best that it can be. I really appreciate so much that the difference from where we are right now to say like a big corporation that's in the oil and gas. If you were working directly for them, I appreciate that y'all care about the people that are employed there as more than just like a number. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody like cares about everybody. If you have concerns, you can voice them. You're not going to get laid off. It's super quick. I mean, it's like, it's funny,
obviously, Ben and Michael kind of, that's who they are and started that. And I think, to one extent or another, all of the leaders and people within Techneaux follow that. At the same time, I often tell people it's practical too. Like that is a good way to run a successful business. When you really think about what it means to take care of your people and to treat them the right way, that is a foundational element of having a successful business. And I think it's important to look at it that way instead of just saying, oh, we do it because we care about people, because it tends to dilute the reality of what it actually means. It's like, no, this is what successful businesses do. This is how you build something that's going to stand the test of time. This is how you build something that's going to be remembered. So, I don't talk about that a lot. It's not something I think that comes up in the course of random conversations with, whoever I'm interacting with at the office. But I think it's super important for people to understand that, like, this is practical. This is the way to build a solid business. Treat people the right way. And it's life, man. Throw the idea of an afterlife or whatever you're, looking at, when all this is over, away for a second, and just think, isn't that the way you should live life? Because it's going to end up being more of the life that you want by treating people kindly and with respect, It is just true.
Yeah.
So that's true in life, in my opinion, as it's true in business. And when I think about those things, it tends to help the decision-making process. So instead of kind of reacting emotionally through like this worry or anxiety about like, oh, what's going to happen with this person or whatever we're going to, because we care about them, it's like, no, what's the decision from the standpoint of like, how should we be running this business? And it's really kind of the same thing, but it removes a lot of that individual personal anxiety that you kind of see when people just get lost so much in the care itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I found it powerful to compartmentalize those things and realize that what we're building here is really rational.
Yeah.
Like it's the thing that we should be doing and what most businesses should be doing, right? Having people that really care about each other and about the place makes it a lot easier to run the business.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Like everybody wants is focused on working towards the same goal because they appreciate where they're at. They're not like worried about like, oh, I got to cover my ass, like the corporate, like, all right,
and they're not bringing a ton of negativity to the office, which creates a much better environment. Even just selfishly for myself, it's like, man, I like interacting with these people far more when they're in a positive headspace, when they're not anxious and all these other things. Like, how do we help them with that? It's like, treat them well, give them the core tenets of employment are really autonomy, responsibility, and compensation. So it's like, you're compensated well enough to where it's not a concern, you're not worried about your bills all the time. Do you have autonomy within your job to do what you need to do? You don't feel like you're being micromanaged and stuff like that, and you can work from home whenever you need to. And then responsibility, like you own the problem and you're responsible for the solution, or you're responsible for running a team. So when we're talking about like how do we do this, my mind always goes to those three things and doing what we can to keep that foundation.
Whenever people like new people come on, that's one of the main things that I talk about with them whenever they're trying to like get in the groove of work. And it's like I tell them that it's much different than a typical work environment, because if you encounter a problem, you have the freedom to go about trying to figure out, there's multiple avenues to the solution, right?
Yeah.
And so many cool tools have come out of that being a thing, where you get to like, okay, I see this problem, I'm going to build a tool for this, and now we have this tool that we can use in other, you might not be able to copy the tool directly and give it to another group for another customer, but you have the knowledge to share to other groups, and so that helps the collective, and that's just very cool in my opinion.
Yeah, I think most people, typical companies, I guess, not people, they kind of lose sight of the relationship between autonomy and responsibility. It's like you can't give somebody responsibility and have them be successful without also giving them autonomy, at least definitely not long term. And so I feel like one of the things that Techneaux does best is embracing the autonomy. Obviously it's not perfect. I think sometimes we err a little bit too far on the throw people into the deep end of the swimming pool, and we're not going to let them drown, not that sort of thing, but it can be an anxiety-ridden experience as a result. And I think that's what your point is, right? Where it's like you're kind of warning the new people. It's like there's a lot of freedom here at Techneaux, and some people are more wired for it than others. I like to think that if you weren't pre-wired, if you didn't have a career before Techneaux and then you joined up, the likelihood of you adapting to that is pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
But there are still plenty of instances where it didn't work out, because whatever reason, people weren't, self-motivated enough, or they didn't have the critical thinking skills, or they had so much anxiety that it got in the way, whatever it is. But yeah, that's always one of the first things that, I mean, I don't do interviews anymore really, but that I talk to people about is, if you're saying how is Techneaux different, that's at the top of the list, 100%. And I love it. That's what I want for our people, is to feel like they can walk their own path. And Definitely. It's the business model, it's what we're trying to build. And yeah, I obviously am a proponent of that from a philosophical standpoint when it comes to running a business. But I have a lot of business philosophies, so that's one of them.
That could probably be a segment in the next one as well.
Oh, definitely. I've got documents that I've written up about leadership and philosophy when it comes to running a successful business and those sorts of things. I mean, most of it boils down to surrounding yourself with good people that hopefully in the end care about you. Yeah. That's the strongest situation to be in. And I feel very, again, grateful and fortunate to have a lot of people that don't just care about Techneaux, but also care about me. It's like, man, that's fantastic. These are people, like, they'd be with me on the paintball field, on the battlefield, because they like me. And the same thing, I'm sure, within your team, right? It's like you guys care about each other outside of work in a personal sort of way, and that drives you to work towards making the whole successful. So I think there's things where you could like overcomplicate business and it works, but if you keep it simple, I find that my life is pretty good now because I've surrounded myself with a bunch of people that care enough to where I don't have to worry a ton, because I have a whole bunch of people that I can count on to, do whatever it is, review some legal document that I really don't want to touch because I don't like doing that sort of thing or whatever it is, right? Very grateful. I mean, I'm excited about what the future holds. I think moving into this new office was a moment. One of those moments was like,
yeah, whenever I got back from paternity leave, it was just, it felt crazy getting in there for the first time. I was like, man, this is like, I felt like we were like the local Google basically before.
Well, driving down College Saloon and seeing the sign for the first time, I was like, okay, we made it. One of the main drags in Lafayette, giant sign there. It felt good. It felt really good. And I've just kind of been letting that soak in, There's little issues here and there with the office. Like, no, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to focus on the fact that this is one of those big milestones for us as a business, and just let it soak. Just let it, permeate. I mean, I don't even know how many people are we up to now.
I know, right?
160? I don't even know.
Damn. I don't even know it's that high.
Yeah, it's like, kind of ramping up here over the last couple of years with no real signs of stopping. Glad to be able to offer that to our people, a place that, well, hopefully most of them are in your shoes or your bucket in terms of wanting to work at Techneaux for the long haul.
For sure.
Stay as long as they can, because I would love people to say not only that it's the best job they ever had, but it was the only job that they had. That would feel good, did something that stood that long.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something worth doing. And I really think that, like, in terms of all the things going on in our country and in the world, it is one of the few really tangible ways that I can contribute, build this kind of community within Lafayette where, society's changed so dramatically over the course of the last 500 to 1,000 years, where it used to be, more community-driven, tribal, and now everybody's so isolated, especially with the internet and everything, right? Technaux's a way for us to build our own little community within a larger one that hopefully helps people in a myriad of ways,
Well, I definitely think it is. I definitely think you're doing a good job. I think everybody's doing a good job of it. The community is strong. Yeah, I enjoy it. I think we're coming up to the end of it now, though, man. So, do you want to give anybody some final words that you want to let people know?
No, I guess look out for episode 2. I'm sure there's plenty more we can talk about. I guess I would just like to say that I hope your podcast is extremely successful, my friend. I think that, you obviously have had kind of this creative entrepreneurial spirit through your music and making video games and now this, and I'd love to see it flourish for you. I think that, I love seeing people be creative and try and do stuff like this. So, just excited to see where your little podcast ends up going. Maybe you end up getting 100 views, or I don't even know. I haven't watched one yet. I feel terrible. Maybe I should go and start watching some.
You didn't even watch the Ben one?
No, man. I was coming to this thing blind. Like, what am I
can appreciate that, though. Yeah,
I kind of like living life that way. Honestly, that was like, just surprised me. But man. I'm like I said, thankful to be here. Thankful for the opportunity to come on the podcast, and thankful for having you be a part of Techneaux for the long haul. You've been a great team member, and I have not heard a single complaint about you other than the fact that people wanted you to do more. They wanted you to, lead projects and other things, but in the end, that stuff can be quite stressful. So it's one of those things that I absolutely understand. There was a time when I didn't do it, So like I said, you've just been a great help, and everybody at Techneaux loves you, dude. So
appreciate that.
There's no love lost. Everybody at Techneaux views you as a part of the dysfunctional, crazy family. Nels likes to call it the misfit toys, right? Referencing the Christmas movie. You're definitely one of the misfit toys. Honestly, coming on here, I thought it was going to be some Cajun backwater version of Hot Ones where you fed me progressively stranger rodents that you had murdered in the backyard, and I had to guess what they were. But fortunately, that didn't happen. I don't know that random rodents from your backyard were in my diet plan, so I appreciate it.
Well, speaking of, I got this candied smoked possum under this table right here.
Yeah, not touching that. Thanks, though. I did read up when you said you had killed that possum on all the random diseases, and I think the primary one they said was possums carry a crap ton of tuberculosis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, that doesn't sound fantastic. I mean, I'm not eating possum lung, but...
Come to think of it, I've been coughing up a lot of blood lately, but I just walked it off.
Got the consumption, gonna need to go to the doctor. Move to some of that drier air in California. That's what they used to do before antibiotics. That was their solution to tuberculosis. Just go to the drier air while this bacterial infection rampages throughout your lungs and circulatory system.
I got this poison ivy I'm burning on this fire. Just breathe in a lot of that smoke. That'll
my respiratory system will recover in this California air. Thank God for penicillin.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate you coming on the show, man. It was very fun. Until next time, everybody. Peace out.
See you, everybody.